Ladies and gentlemen, Rodgers is about to come on and absolutely blow your mind in terms of success and the process that it is, the journey, and how you become your greatest possible self. And you too are definitely capable of doing that. So stick around. It's going to be a powerful interview. We're going to dive into some really great inspirational stories, principles, and wisdom to help you become your GPS. Before that, though, I'm talking to you because you are already becoming your greatest possible self, and I acknowledge you for that. And however I can support you in doing that, let's talk. Let's keep growing together. Whether it's coming on the 12-hour marathon and sharing your message as a guest, whether it's launching your own podcast and getting your own message out to the world with your platform, or even if it's our Bali Flow and Fire retreat that we got coming up here in November, however we can support you, let me know. Just send me a message, chris@beyourgps.com. That's the email. Facebook.com/th3burns or Instagram @IamMillionaireChris. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Next up is the iTunes review of the week. Let's see who it's by this week. It is Ari Krizek. And Ari says, Chris's energy to help others become their greatest possible self is really empowering. You can feel how he's being honest, laid back, and genuinely want to help listeners to get the best out of each episode. Yes, I do. Thank you so much, Ari, for giving us that feedback and that review. And if you want a chance to get shouted out on a future 12-hour live stream marathon, go to beyourgps.com/iTunes or search Greatest Possible Self on the iTunes store and you'll be able to find us. And I just really appreciate you for being on the journey with us, for tuning into the show. Definitely subscribe while you're there so you can get all the latest updates and any feedback you have on the show, how to make it even better and serve you even more. I love hearing that stuff. So please share that. And whether it's on iTunes or with me personally, I love to hear it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to introduce Mills in just a minute here. Before that, grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, be ready to take notes because there is going to be some fire, some epic wisdom in this, and you definitely want to stay tuned all the way through till the end to get all of it, to get all the greatness so you can take that massive next step on your process of success and becoming your greatest possible self. Let's introduce Mills and we'll bring him on. Mills, Mr. Rodgers, is an up-and-coming author and speaker on student success and mindset. He brings his perspectives of being a military veteran, former public school educator, and a parent to a child with special needs and shares those diverse experiences with his audiences. Mills has authored a book titled Success is a Process, Not an Event, which was written with the intent of providing insight into the often rocky road of finding our purpose, reaching our goals, and living our dreams. While able to connect to all audiences, his platform focuses on those who society unfortunately places labels on and seeks to give them tangible tools and inspiration to reach their potential. And we're blessed because we're going to be diving into some of those tools, the wisdom, and the experience that Mills has accumulated over his journey. Mills, are you ready to rock the house, my man?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it. Sir. I love it. I love it, man. I appreciate you being here and bringing your love, bringing your value to our audience. It's going to be a lot of fun. I love your shirt, man. Rodgers, I love that.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I took it from the LA Dodgers. So,
That's
hey,
right.
change the letter.
Right. I see the style.
Make my own brand.
I love it. I love it, man. So, Mills, we're going to dive into the theme of today, which is dream destinations. So what does that mean to you, man? What does dream destinations mean to you, Mills?
Well, I think everyone has their own utopia or ideals and things that they want to accomplish. So when you say dream destinations, that's the first thing that comes to mind is that, there's certain things that we all in our wildest dreams would love to do. And so we just have to figure out a way to get to that destination. And I think that aligns so much with, hey, success is a process.
Yes.
It's a process. So we have to figure out the process of how to get to where we want to be, our dream destination.
Yeah. And something I really love about the success is a process mindset is like every moment here and now is the dream destination, right? Waiting until someday, maybe when we have whatever we've been wanting, the achievement, the external thing to measure up to what is expected of us or what society says we should want, that's not true success, man. It's in this moment. And I know we're going to be diving into that. So I love what you're teaching, man, and especially to the youth and people who are underprivileged or have those labels, man. I really appreciate that you're standing up for those people, man.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So let's dive in, man. I mentioned it in your intro, but in your own words, Mills, tell us a little bit more about who you are, what you stand for, and how you serve your clients.
Well, I just want to see people grow. I want to see kids grow, adults grow. And so that's my main thing.
Mm,
I feel like, at the end of the day, we no matter what your background is, we all want the same things. People want to live comfortably, they want to do well for their families, and they want to enjoy themselves. And
that's right.
so, that's my platform right there.
Mm,
Also, I've been a parent, I'm a parent to a child with special needs. And so I also speak on that. And
mhm,
so that's my platform right there. And that's what I feel is important. And I think that's my contribution to the world.
mm, mm. I love it. I
Hmm.
love it, man. So we're going to dive into what that contribution has been like for you, developing that, developing the muscle, developing the desire to contribute. And before that, like let's go to the journey, man. What was it like for you understanding that success is a journey, success is a process? Tell us where that all began for you, Mills.
Oh man, I mean, I can sit here forever, but I'm gonna try to summarize it.
Yeah.
So, I've been an educator. I was an educator for 14 years,
Oh
and
wow. Thank you. Thank you
um,
for really serving the next generation in that capacity, man.
yeah, and that followed having served our country as
Mm,
a mental health specialist in the military.
wow.
I was a mental health specialist or mental health NCO for 5 years in the military, and
Wow.
then upon leaving the military, I decided to get into education. Now, like I always tell kids, I always tell them, I say, I never ever thought I would be a teacher. I
Wow.
said, my mom was a teacher,
Mm.
and she tried to push me in that direction
Mhm.
when I was young. And I was like, no, 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 I'm not going to do it. And I went to college, and I did not major in education.
Mm.
Didn't,
What
didn't
was the
major in it.
resistance? Why didn't you want to be an educator growing up?
I just wasn't interested in it. That was
Mm.
just not something I wanted to do
Yeah.
at all.
Wow.
And but these are all teaching points that I can share with kids
Yeah.
because yeah, I wasn't interested in education. I did some subbing while in college, and that just confirmed like, oh no, I don't want to deal with these kids, man. And so I finished college,
Yeah.
and I did some other things. I worked for the state of Louisiana because that's where I'm originally from.
Uh-huh.
Um, I also worked for Foot Locker as an assistant manager. I was all over the place. I did some different things,
Yeah.
kind of, you know, I tried some different things. And
Yeah.
so it just, you know, I, it got to the point where I was like, you know what, man, maybe the military might be a good option right now. Not that I was just doing terrible, but I just wasn't happy where I was at. I was doing, again, retail with Foot Locker, and I didn't
Mhm.
like it that much. And, I was about to get promoted to probably a store manager in the next couple of months, but it was just something I didn't want to do. So I'm like, you know what, I'm going to join the army.
Mm.
They're going to give me an opportunity to maybe work in a field that I, enjoy, which was counseling at the time.
Mhm.
The reason I left the state of Louisiana as a counselor was because of the fact that my commute was too long. It was
Mm.
a really long commute. Now you're in California, probably that's probably nothing for you.
Yep.
But I was in Louisiana and I was commuting 70 miles one way, so that's 140 miles a day.
Yeah.
And so
That's
so yeah,
intense.
I ended up yeah, so I ended up joining the army, and it really confirmed that hey, I prefer occupations where I can help people
Mm.
because I was a mental health specialist. So then, once I got out, went into teaching, tried to climb the ladder as an educator, looking to get promoted as an
Mhm.
assistant principal. Things didn't quite work out. Had some weird things happen.
Mm.
I mean, I even had one instance where I went for an interview as an assistant principal for an assistant principal position.
Mhm.
And it was a very rigorous process. Out of all the interviews I've been on, it was extremely, extremely rigorous.
Mhm.
However, I was offered the opportunity, and I don't know, it's kind of silly. I don't want to go too much into it, but then 20 minutes later, um, the the hiring official called back and said, "Oh, no, we're going to go in a different direction." Crazy. I mean, I'm like, what? I mean, and like I said, I could share more details, but I don't care to right now,
Right.
in a public forum.
Right.
But it was just weird. It was just
Mm.
extremely weird, and so um, that experience right there, and then a couple of other experiences kind of started nudging me in the direction of speaking.
Mm.
This was not something I ever envisioned myself doing,
Mm.
but I mean, again, there were some things that happened along the way that nudged me in this direction, and I started to make it more of a reality over the past 2 years or so.
Wow. So Mills, I love this, and I love you sharing that there was these obstacles and you don't even know why they happened. It seemed like you were a sure fit. You went through the process, the rigmarole, the hoops. You did what you were supposed to, and then for
Yeah.
some reason, like life, your own process, right, of success said nope, that's not where you're supposed to go, Mills. Like keep going forward, and you kept getting these nudges and hints about speaking and sharing your message like that, being a professional communicator. I'm curious, at that point, were you still thinking before you even knew, okay, I want to go after speaking, when you were doing Foot Locker, military, and also for the assistant principal position? Did you feel like success was a event at that point, or were you aware that it was a process? Like, what was it like for that?
Well, I always understood. I always understood that you have to put in work for
Yeah.
things, and things don't happen overnight. But
Mm.
I'll be honest. Most of my life, I was just like, man, why do these things happen? Why aren't things working out the way I intended?
Mm.
I'm trying to do the right thing, and it's just not working out.
Mm.
When is it going to be my turn?
Yeah.
And now, I'll be honest, now it's all starting to make sense because I'm able to draw on all those experiences and, connect with people.
Mm.
But at the time, it was just like, man, it's just like I was telling a good friend of mine, like, I told him, I said, man, the 2010s are wrapping up. And, it's been a very up and down decade for me, but I want to finish with a bang.
That's
I think
right.
I'm on the upswing, and
That's right.
this would be a great way to finish this decade that's
Yeah.
been very tough for me.
Wow. So I'm curious, to finish strong, what do you see as a core component of your success, really running through the finish line of the decade?
Right now is I think I'm about to make it a success because I'm doing the speaking full time.
Hmm.
Um, for those out there that are listening, I taught for 14 years. I actually resigned my teaching position over the summer.
Congrats, man.
Uh, well, thank you, because I want to my total attention to speaking,
Yep.
and so right now it's really going it's going really well. I'm getting lots of leads, and I'm getting the schedule filled, and so it's going great. I'm my own boss.
Mm. Yeah.
Yes, I have my own schedule and everything, but
Mm.
I'm able to adjust it as needed, and so it feels really good. And to me, that would be the icing on the cake. It just really makes everything make sense. So yeah.
Yeah. So great. So great. I love it. So let's start diving into this conversation about success being a process. What do we need to know? What are the foundational principles and things that we really get to start to integrate and pay attention to in our own lives to create that true success?
Well, just like I tell audiences, everything starts with you.
Mm.
I'm big on self empowerment.
Yeah.
And I'll be the first to acknowledge, hey, I'm not perfect. That's a disclaimer right there. The
Right.
cat's out
Right.
the bag. I'm not perfect. I haven't always made all the right decisions. However, it's ultimately on you.
Mm.
And like I mentioned to many of my audiences, yes, I'm aware that there's discrimination out there.
Mm.
There's sexism, there's racism, there's bias based on relationship choices
Yep.
and that sort of thing, or inclinations or whatever else. And but at the end of the day, despite those, because I have to practice it myself, I've been discriminated against, even in the speaking business.
Mm.
I was discriminated against. At the end of the day, though, it hurts, and but you have to keep going.
Yeah.
You still have to work.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're going to have to put in the work. You're going to have to keep it moving, and realize that things do happen,
Mm.
but you have to keep going. So I'm really big on, again, self empowerment. You have a lot of power within you. Don't feel like you don't. because you do. And the great thing is you have a lot of examples around you
Mm.
that you can see of people that have overcome challenging circumstances to make it. And so I think that's so powerful. So that's one of the principles right there is self-empowerment.
Mm.
That person in the mirror.
Yeah. Can you
You have
tell
a
us
lot of
about a
power.
time in the past where maybe you weren't as self-empowered, and how would things be different now that you've been really embodying that self-empowerment? Is there anything that stands out to you along your journey that's like, man, if only I would have had the confidence, if only I would have owned my worth and my value and what I have to contribute, then things would have been different. Do you have anything like that stand out for you, Mills?
Just my entire life. I mean, there's so many circumstances. I mean, I think about it even with being in college and dating
Yeah.
and jobs, initially. Uh, yeah, I mean, yeah, I can really think back to even, like I said, yeah, I talk about dating, but even my studies in college.
Mm.
If I was more confident, and this is part of my story too that I like to share, is I bounced around a lot in college. Yes, I
Mhm.
completed college, but I did not fulfill my potential
Mm.
because I was always looking when things got challenging, it's going in a different direction.
Right.
If my
Mm.
major was too hard, go to the dean or whoever advisor and change my major.
Mm.
And so, I didn't have that confidence
Mm.
that I needed to have.
Yeah.
And, it prevented me from accomplishing a lot of things early on in my life. I think I could have done some greater things
Mm.
in my life if I had more confidence in myself, if I understood the power I had to do better.
Yeah. So, Mills, what are some practical exercises or ways that our audience, someone listening right now, could really develop that confidence and develop that knowingness that they are powerful?
I think I'm really big on action. I mean, it's
Mm.
really just it's complicated, but it's simple. You have to take action. You have
Yeah.
to do things, and so you have another thing I like to talk about is our resources because a lot of times when people talk about improvement, they'll say, "Well, I want to do this, but I don't have enough money. I don't
Hmm.
have this. I don't have that." And again, those are legitimate. I mean, they're very legitimate. I mean, if you don't have money, it's very difficult to do a lot of things. Money definitely helps a lot,
Hmm.
if you
Yeah.
have it. Um, However, nowadays we have access to tons of knowledge,
Mm.
right at our fingertips, the internet, on our phones, on our laptops. And so knowledge is power. And so you can learn different ways of accomplishing your goals. You can
Mm.
get information just through the internet and figure out what to do. And everybody has access to it. I mean, if you go to a library, let's say
Mm.
you didn't even have a computer at home, you go to a library, you have access.
Yeah. Oops.
I'm sorry about that.
All good. All good.
Yeah. You have access to the internet.
Yeah.
Um, so that's something right there. You have to take action though. And
Mm.
so action helps to build confidence.
Okay.
Even if you're not confident in the beginning, and I have a story I could tell
Yeah.
about that
Please.
that helped me with that. Okay. Well, like I mentioned to you, I was in the army once upon a time, and so anyone that's been in the service can tell you that when you first get there initially, you're like, man, what the hell did I get myself into?
Uh huh.
I mean, you have drill sergeants yelling at you constantly. You see people crying and all kind of other stuff because it's just a chaotic environment,
Yeah.
man. It's crazy.
Mm.
And so, I felt those same emotions. But the thing about the military is they teach you everything you need to know. And
Mm.
so, couple of weeks in, we learn about marksmanship. They teach you how to shoot an M16 rifle.
Mhm.
And your boy right here, man, I mean, I was terrible. I was a horrible shot. I couldn't hit those targets. It's like you'd swear that they were just moving all over the place or something. I mean, I just couldn't hit them, and
Yep.
it just wasn't making sense to me. And I was really struggling, man. And it's a lot of tough talk that goes on in
Oh yeah.
basic
Oh
training.
yeah.
The drill sergeant like, you better, you got to do better or else he's sending you home, blah, blah, blah.
It's not like, Mills, come on, let's hit the target. You got
Yeah,
this,
exactly.
Mills. I believe in you.
Exactly.
No, it's not like that.
Now, see, that would have worked for me though. I was one of those people, that would work fine for me. That would actually get me to be more confident, to be honest with you. But unfortunately, no, they don't take that approach. And so I was really struggling, and I'll be honest. And like I said, this is usually part of my presentation. So those of you that are listening, you're getting like my presentation for free. but yeah, I'll be honest, man. I if I could have quit, I would have quit. And that was one thing about me up until that time, like I was mentioning earlier, like in college, if I struggled with something, I would change my major.
Yeah.
And so or if I had trouble on a job, I just find another job, instead of just pushing through. Being in the military and basic training, I couldn't quit. It wasn't very practical at all to quit because I couldn't just jump in my car and drive back home. I didn't have a car. My car was far, far away. And I definitely wasn't going to walk off post, in the middle of Fort Leonard Wood, in the middle of Missouri, Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, Fort Lost in the Woods, as it's known. And so I really had to buckle down. And so I remember there was one Saturday, and of course in basic training, you're always training no matter what day it is. But it was a Saturday and it was snowing outside because I went to basic training in the middle of the winter. And, the drill sergeants called a few of us that were struggling with marksmanship. They're like, hey, y'all going to get some extra training, on the range. And I'm saying to myself, of course, I wouldn't say that to them, but I'm like, man, it's snowing outside. Why are we going to go out there in these type of conditions and we can't shoot already, But how's that going to help? But of course, again, I'm not going to tell them that because I would have really got chewed out and they would have made me do 1,000 push-ups or whatever. But I'm like, okay, and I got my gear and everything, and we went out there, and it was snowing and everything. But at that time, it started to make more sense. I mean, I started hitting the targets, pow, pow, pow. And, we went out there a few more times after that as a whole unit. And, I continued to improve. It's like, man, I'm starting to get this. And when it came time to qualify, meaning test, I did really well. I ended up being one of the best shots in my unit. And so it really taught me a lesson. That was a real pivotal moment, I think, in my life, especially when I look back on it now, because like I said, prior to that, I could say that I was a quitter. You're looking at somebody that was a quitter. But that showed me right there that, hey, you know what, if you continue on, if you push through, you can do some things, even when things are when they're the darkest, that's when, a lot of times a change is coming, but you have to continue, to take action, take those actions that will help you to improve. Even if you're not feeling it, you still have to continue to do that.
So what I'm hearing is you had a really great environment to condition you to follow through, to execute, to not quit. And a challenge today, I feel, for a lot of people is we're in environments, social media, relationships, jobs, careers, whatever, where it's easy. It's so easy to walk away. It's so easy to just disconnect, to hide, to hide behind like all this external stuff and just play it safe, man. How would you recommend someone who knows themselves kind of as that quitter, as that person who, when the going gets tough, they run? How would you advise them to really face into that fear, into those difficult things? Is there anything like a structure or how they can put themselves in a similar environment like the military without necessarily going to the military? What would you recommend, man?
Well, I mean, it's always good to have support systems. I mean, there's always groups that, whatever your interests are, to help guide you in a certain direction. And that's the thing, like, yes, social media can be, it can have some negative qualities to it, but it's the same thing, and I hear people say that, like, oh, social media is bad, but I mean, you could say the same thing about TV.
Yeah.
There's good things on TV and there's bad things on TV. And so, you can gravitate toward the positive things on social media. There's groups. I mean, I can't tell you how many things I've learned just being part of groups. just the support I've gotten. I mean, I've made friendships
Mm.
just by being in groups and
Yeah.
connecting with maybe fellow speakers. In fact, I was communicating this with this one speaker yesterday, and we've really kind of developed a friendship. We've never ever talked in person on the
Yeah.
phone,
Yeah.
but we've developed a friendship just through social media and connecting with each other and
That's
just
awesome.
supporting each other. And so I think that's one strategy right there.
Mm.
Of course, you want to, I remember when I was a counselor and I actually did some substance abuse counseling. We always talked about changing your people, places, and things.
Yep.
And so I think that's another thing. If you're in, now I know it's difficult.
Yup.
I'm not going to say that there's just a magical solution because some people make things sound so easy.
Mm.
But it's sometimes it is difficult to change those things. But I think you can change certain aspects of them. For example, yes, you might live with a family that's not positive, but you can. I think you have to start conditioning your mind to say, you
Mm.
know what, I am not going to let that bother me. That aspect of my family bother me. And again, I'm one. I understand people come from some very challenging circumstances,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, I think you have to commit to a level of focus
Mm.
to where you're able to tune out some things. And I have this concept.
Mhm.
I'm going to jump into it. I hope I'm not,
Dive in, man. Let's
rambling
go.
again. Okay. All right. It's called 3D success.
Yeah.
Something I came up with. 3D success. Okay. And so there's 3Ds. Okay. So first one is discipline.
Mm.
Obviously, I mean, that's if I ask somebody what do the 3Ds mean, I'm sure most people would say one of them would say is discipline.
Yep.
And so, you have to have some discipline about you. If you're going to be successful, it can only happen through discipline.
That's right.
Okay. If you don't have discipline, then it doesn't matter how much you want it.
Mm.
It's more than likely not going to happen. You're going to have to be disciplined, and discipline means consistency.
Mm.
I like to use sports analogies.
Okay.
New England Patriots, for example. Okay, they're obviously the very winning franchise.
Mhm.
Okay, they're great because they win consistently. They have some disciplined systems in place
Mm.
within their organization that they do, and that helps them to win consistently. Now, do they win every freaking game? No, hardly any team wins every game. Yes, you will have you'll have your disappointments.
Mm.
However, if you have that discipline, your results will be consistent.
Yeah.
And so, to me, that's a big thing. You have to have discipline in order to change yourself.
So just to
But
recap, Mills, the discipline is really consistency with the things that create success, whatever those habits are, whatever the
hmm
things that really make the difference. For the Patriots, their discipline might be a certain intensity in their practice, a certain
hmm
intentionality, a certain level of heart and commitment that they bring to their practice, as well as a mindset, a discipline of having good mindset, having good thoughts that they bring to their games. So it's like they're disciplined with those fundamentals.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
The other D, the second D, is desire. Well, I'm sorry, decisions.
Mm.
Decisions.
Yep.
I also like to use discernment, but a lot of
Mm.
people don't know what discernment means. So,
Mhm.
decisions. You got to make the right choices. Okay, you want to have the right plans in place.
Yep.
So, yeah, you might have you want to do the right things, but you have to have the right thing to do.
Yep. Yep.
You can't just do anything. You got to
Mm.
make good choices. You got to be around the right people. You got to keep yourself out of trouble.
Yep.
And again, those things are challenging. I'm
Mm.
not going to say that they're not. And I'm very empathetic to those challenges. The last thing is desire or desperation.
Mm.
You got to want it bad.
Yeah.
Okay. That really helps you to stay consistent a
Mm.
lot of times.
Yep.
If you want to lose weight, if you're looking to be fit, you have to be consistent in whatever you're doing.
Mm.
You can't do it once a month. I ask kids that all the time when I have presentations like, hey, if I just worked out, once a month, would I be very fit? No. How often? Well, how often should I work out? Probably 3, 4 times a week. Exactly. You don't have to work out every day,
No.
but you have to have a consistency about what you're doing. And so we have to apply those principles to
Mm.
whatever we're doing. And so I think those tools right there, getting back to what you mentioned initially, can help pull you in the direction you need to go to help you overcome those challenging circumstances.
Yeah, this is great, Mills. I love it. I love discipline, decisions, and desire. And what I see, like how people can actually start to apply this today, is every day check in with those three things. Am I disciplined with my actions? Maybe it's at the beginning of the day, maybe the end, reflection, something like that. But was I disciplined with my actions today? Did I make good decisions? Did I choose the right things? Was I disciplined with my values, with what's important to me, with what I said I'm committed to? And then the desire, like, am I really connected to why I'm doing this thing? Like what I want, the thing, the goal, the dream, the success that I desire. Like, am I really connected with that? Is my fire being fueled? And so people can check in with that. Is that something you'd recommend?
Yes, definitely. That sounds great. I
Yeah.
mean, that's it right there.
Yeah, that's great, man. And I think there's going to be temptations, like you were saying. There's going to be temptations and things that we can do that's easy. The easy way, the thing that we've been conditioned to up until this point, is the reason why we have what we have. It's a habit. We've been conditioned to something, whether it's watching TV, whether it's eating an extra brownie at nighttime, whatever it is or maybe taking a little too much time to relax or just be lazy. That's been a conditioning process. So to get to success, we have to recondition ourselves to whatever that
Hmm.
is, whatever the habits are and the disciplines are to be able to get there.
And this is something I've experienced even recently, believe it or not. Like I mentioned to you, I went full time. July 22nd, I resigned from education.
Yeah.
And of course, when you're an entrepreneur and speaker,
Hmm.
I'm not in no big corporation or anything like that, so I have to do all the work myself.
Yeah.
And so I admittedly, I feel like I stumbled out the gate first couple of weeks
Right.
because I was like, man, I'm not getting any, great leads or anything like that. And, I was just, I was starting to get very worried about some things like,
Hmm.
oh my God, my family and everything. And, they're counting on me. But at the end of the day, I still had to, I had to say to myself, okay, Mills, just stay consistent, look at yourself, reflect upon what you're doing, maybe correct some things in the process.
Yeah.
And I had to do that, even though I wasn't feeling it at the time. I was
Yep.
like, oh my God, man. I was starting to even look ahead, too far ahead, like, oh my
Mm.
God, what if I don't get any engagements over the next few months?
Right.
What am I going to do? I'm going to have to do this and that. But no, I had to really just kind of reel myself in,
Mm.
and I think that's one key right there. You have to have that self reflection a
Mm.
lot of times. And so I had to do that and like, you know what, Mills, stay consistent, you know, get even more structured with what you're doing. You're an entrepreneur now.
Yep.
And so you have to be very structured, just like you had a job before where you had structure. Well, now you're your own boss.
Yep.
So you have to have that structure as to how, you're going to go about getting business and,
Mm.
stay true to it every day. And so I did that, and I'll tell you the last 4 weeks I've been, it's really been working, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
really well. And so, and I like to share those things because again, a lot of times speakers get up here and they act like, well, I mean, I know they address challenges they had,
Right.
but I think it's just important to let people know that, hey, you know what? I feel I have some of the same emotions you have.
That's
I have
right.
some of the same concerns you have. I have the same challenges.
Yeah.
And, I want to let you know that you're not alone. And, just like you have to battle, I have to battle.
Yeah, I appreciate you really sharing what's been going on and that the other side of things that maybe people don't see all the time and they don't hear people who are getting up, doing live videos, doing interviews, public speaking, getting paid like this. This is great stuff. And what is the other side of the coin? What's the journey like? What's going on behind the scenes? So I really appreciate you sharing that along with all the victories that you've been having recently, especially that momentum as you reflected, as you got those structures in place to really, be disciplined and execute on that, make powerful decisions, have the desire stoked and cultivated. Because I feel the small wins, the small daily wins every day is what builds so that you can create bigger wins. So I'm curious, Mills, what were some of those structures or things that you did that really made a difference for you when you kept doing them?
Well, in the past few weeks, again, it's just looking at it like, okay, I have a job.
Mhm.
My job now is to be a full-time speaker,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
um, there's a lot of things that maybe some people wouldn't consider as part of the job that I do,
Hmm.
and so I put that in my schedule, throughout the day
Yep.
that I have to do, and so again, it's more about being consistent because I mean, it's evidence all over the place that people that are consistent win.
Yeah.
They're on top. Whether it's in sports, whether it's in a business environment, whether it's with family,
Hmm.
they're winners.
Hmm.
And so you have to have that. I like what you mentioned about the small wins. Kind of takes me back about 2 years ago or so, about almost 3 years. Um, you know, I have a lot of in my family. There's been, unfortunately, a lot of people that have passed away because of health issues and that sort of thing. And so, I've always tried to, maintain a certain level of fitness. But it really kind of, after looking, seeing all those things happening, it really just made me want to commit even more to it.
Yeah.
And so, I believe that's January 2017. That's kind of like a New Year's resolution thing. Like I said, even though I was already doing things to stay fit,
Mhm.
but I made a commitment to do more cardio.
Mm.
So I started walking and doing things of that nature
Yeah.
and started jogging a little bit more. And now I know you're probably saying, well, hey, you was in the army and stuff. So, running, that's no big deal. But I was always one that hated running. I hated it. And I was like, man, once I got out the army, I'm like, ooh, get to wipe my hands of it. I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Hmm.
But I started running as just part of the whole cardio thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's an important point because, especially with kids, because a lot of times, just like I said, I didn't want to be a teacher. And
Mm.
I ended up becoming a teacher and did it for 14 years. And
Yeah.
it was probably my most enjoyable job.
Wow.
I got into running, something I didn't like. And I tell kids that all the time. And I used to put this on my board in class that,
Mm.
at 18, I never thought I would have did this. It's like, 10 different things. I didn't think I would have worked at Foot Locker. I didn't think I was going to be in the military. I didn't think I was going to be a teacher. I didn't think I was going to work on a psychiatric ward.
Mhm.
Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I said that's the thing. At 18, you don't know what you're in store. What's in store for you. You really don't.
Nope.
And so that's why it's important, to take your education seriously.
Mm.
Okay. And so getting back to the running though, that was something that didn't really enjoy, but I ended up doing it. And so, um, I did. My wife had mentioned that, hey, maybe she had talked about she was maybe interested in doing 5K or 10K or something like that. And so I thought about it. I'm like, well, hey, maybe I can do that. Just something to give myself a target to
Yep.
reach for.
Yep.
And give me a little bit more purpose as far as the run.
Mm.
And so I did that. I registered for my first 5K and I actually came out third for my age group.
Wow.
And so I was like,
Wow.
what?
Wow.
It's kind of like, wait, I did that. And so that really just like it was a small victory.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm glad you mentioned that because a lot of times we have to create small victories for ourselves
Mm.
to give ourselves some momentum in other areas,
Yeah.
because I'm big on the law of attraction and all that other good stuff. And I think, once you start getting those victories, it changes your energy
Mm.
and, you start attracting other successes. And so, it gave me energy, for speaking,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
mean, doing, registering for different races and placing in my age group and stuff, that gave me energy, for
Yeah.
the speaking industry. And I think it's really impacted me in that area. So I think it's
Mm.
just important to create small victories for yourself, however you can.
Yeah, it's like every area of life impacts the other, right? When you have discipline, when you achieve those things, when you build confidence in one area, it starts to leak, so to speak, or spread into those other areas in a positive way. So if we can just start with the basics, I know a big thing of the military is to make your bed every day,
Yeah.
right? Like that's
Hmm.
it's so simple, it's so basic, but it's something a lot of people don't do, and so they start their day without discipline. They start their day without cleanliness, without precision. Having a clean bed is precision. It's like focus. It's intention. It's giving love to something, serving our environment, cleaning that up. So I think it's really when we focus on those small things, we get to zoom back out, reflect, and say, hey, what are the small wins that I can start creating for myself and celebrating and sharing with other people that it's important for me too? Because I'm sure with all these races, you were sharing that with people, how this is a new
Oh yeah,
chapter for you and you're proud of yourself and you got third. And like that's something to
yeah,
be confident about.
yeah. And I even got first in one. So,
Yeah.
and yeah, I put it on, social media, and
Yep.
it was cool. And it's funny, life a lot of times offers you an opportunity to redeem yourself.
Wow.
And so, like I mentioned to you, I felt like I was a quitter in some areas. I
Mm,
tried out for sports a couple of times and didn't do well, and didn't push myself. And this gave me an opportunity to kind of redeem myself in that area. Yes,
mm.
I'm much older now, but it gave me an opportunity for success in the field of athleticism.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah.
That's awesome. Awesome, Mills. I love it. And I want to dive into the your family, man, because I know you have a child with special needs. Can you tell us like what that's been like for you? How that's shaped your view on the world?
Yeah, I actually have two daughters. My
Yeah.
oldest one, she has special needs, and then my youngest one.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, when you have a child with special needs, it definitely, it puts a different spin on things. You know, when you have a, when you have a child, you're ultimately looking at them saying, well, what, I'm going to have this kid, and I'm going to raise them, and get them prepared for the world. And
Mhm.
so, when you have a child with special needs, especially with a severe disability like my oldest, um, that kind of gets thrown out the window,
Mm,
because that preparation, a lot of times you're looking at the fact that your kids are going to outlive you, and so as a parent with a child with special needs, that's a big concern right now.
mm,
Is that, man, if things go like they normally do, and my oldest daughter outlives me, what's going to happen with her? And so, that's always on your mind. It's a lot of
mm,
weight, and it's a lot of weight on your mind, and you're always trying to think of how, what can you do to address those types of issues.
mm,
Um, and just even things not as heavy as that.
mm.
It just causes a lot of challenges. I mean, um, as far as even just taking a trip somewhere,
Mhm.
or going to a get together, or things of that nature. Even going to the gym or something. Like my daughter was, if my oldest daughter was, I guess, a normally functioning child, then I could say, well, you know what, I can leave her while I go
Right.
work out at the gym. But something simple like that, it kind of throws a wrench in that. And so it's a lot of different things. Of course, you love your kid at the end of the day. You love them, you appreciate them, and you want to do what's best for them. But I think it's just important that the general public understands those challenges, because there's so many times that I had people say, well, oh, just leave your daughter with so and so, she'll be fine. And it's like, no, it's not that easy.
Mm,
And I think
mm.
people nowadays are more understanding of that.
Yeah.
But initially, like when I my daughter was younger, it wasn't that way. I mean, it's like people tend to just almost, what's the word I'm looking for? Just minimize
Mm,
a lot of those challenges, like
yeah.
it's, or trivialize it, and it's like, hey, you don't get it. It's a big concern.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a big concern.
I
Yeah.
appreciate you sharing that, man. And I also agree that the things that were once simple or are simple with a, let's say a normally functioning child, it's different. It's different. You get to be more resourceful. There's different circumstances. There's different things that have to be in place for there to be success, right? Like how do you
Hmm.
how do you cultivate, how do you identify success with someone who has certain needs and then another person who has different needs? It's different needs, different supervision, different resources to be able to facilitate the greatest growth, the success of that person. So I'm curious, how has having a special needs daughter, and of course you have a healthy daughter, normally functioning daughter as well, how has your family shaped your view on success?
Well, no, it's not. I know we always say that things happen for a reason, and I'm not really a big fan of that. But to be honest with you,
Yeah.
because I mean, everything does have a reason. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a good reason.
Right.
That's just my personal view. But I think you can always use those things
Mm.
to help others.
Yeah.
Whatever you have that's maybe negative that happens to you, you can of course use to help others. And so, um, for me, the fact that I do have a daughter with special needs, I've been able to go out in the community and share
Mm.
some information, some insights, and that sort of thing, and be a sounding board for parents that have children with special needs, because it can be very lonely. And a lot of times, people, like I mentioned, they just don't understand. They
Mm.
don't quite understand. Not that, and I'm not one that says that you have to be in someone's the exact same position as someone to understand. But a lot of times people don't. They make a choice not to.
Mm.
And so, again, as far as my family, it's made me, as a dad, much more appreciative, um I guess, even of my youngest. Because it makes me, number one, I had my oldest daughter when I was much younger, and so there's a big gap between the two. They have 11 years. And
Wow.
so when my youngest came along, my I guess, of course, the concern was, oh, I just hope, I hope she's normally developing. And we've been blessed with that. But it made me treasure those moments of when
Mm.
she was young. I mean, when she was a baby, I would just stare at her in her crib while she slept,
Yeah.
because I was thinking, like, man, my oldest, I can barely remember what she looked like as a baby.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking to myself, man, I really want to remember what my youngest looks like when she's a baby. And so I would just stare at her really hard. I just wanted it just to be imprinted in my brain.
Mm.
And so, yeah, it makes you treasure, for me, and that's not more so the special needs. It's just the fact that because of the gap between the two,
Yeah.
and I realized how fast,
They grow up.
children grow.
Yeah.
it just made me really appreciate, uh, certain moments with my youngest a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. Man,
Hmm.
this is precious, and I appreciate you sharing, Mills. And I know my audience, they're loving this conversation, just hearing your perspective of how you've been able to take what life has delivered to you and say, how do I make the most out of it? How do I create success with this? How do I enjoy the process of this becoming? And I really hear that in those moments when you're with your youngest. You're like, hey, I've seen how fast children grow up. Like, I'm going to choose to make this moment so precious, so meaningful, so important to me, so deeply ingrained and emblazoned on your soul, on your mind, on your heart, and just really like be with that. And I think that's really special for you living your life, for you at the end of your life, let's say, looking back and saying, man, I really used my time. I really invested my time in the things that were most important to me, like loving my children, loving my family. And I do want to dive into that legacy portion because I think that's a part of success. What for you, Mills, is the legacy that you're out to create? What do you want to impact in the world? How do you want to do that with success as a process?
Well, um, it's been a journey to get here. I'll be honest. Most of my life, I was just kind of wondering, like, man, what am I supposed to really be doing?
Yeah.
Of course, I had a job, and as a teacher, I've been in the military. But I was always. I mean, I even had people question me or ask me, like, "Hey, what is it that you really like to do?"
Yeah.
What is it that you're about? And it's one of those things that I could never really put my finger on. I always felt like
Mm.
I was a jack of all trades,
Yeah.
master of none. And
Mm.
over the past few years being nudged in this direction, I feel like I have that clarity now. Like,
Yeah.
hey, this is what I was supposed to be doing. And it's helping me to build that legacy for my kids, for my family, for my wife, for my mom, and for my relatives and everything,
Mm.
for my dad. um it's just helping that, because I think that's what you ultimately want to do. You want to be someone that your family is proud of, that they can look up to. And so being a speaker and now being an entrepreneur and going out there and
Mm.
creating hopefully my own wealth and building my own business,
Yep.
that's something that I hope family members, friends, uh students that I've taught, can hopefully they learn something from, and it impacts them.
Mm.
That hey, no matter who you are, no matter what your race is, your gender, ethnicity, whether you're LGBT,
Mhm.
you can do what you want to do. You just have to put your mind to it and go out there and make it happen. And so for me, that's an important thing, as far as my legacy and that sort of thing. It's just that I want to be known as someone that, man, Mr. Rodgers was, he was a great guy. He was a cool teacher. He's a
Mm.
great father. He showed his daughters a lot of different things, and he was a great example for them. He was involved, and he came from, he had to do everything on his own, but he did
Mm.
some great things to really support his family and to lead a life of impact.
Yeah. Yeah. This is great, and I love that where you're at in life is perfect, and I feel like you're hitting your stride. Like recognizing over the last, let's say, 20 years or so of educating, of military, of these different jobs and different opportunities, really finding out who you are, Mills. Like this perfect time to say, okay, I've done the jack of all trades things. I've really wandered in a great way in terms of finding my soul. I've like wandered through life and wondered in wonder, discovering what is life all about. And now you get to say, okay, it's time to take all my experience, really catalog it and deliver it in the most effective way to leave a legacy, to make an impact on others. And you're doing that through speaking and building your business. And really, I think it's also to be an example for the people around you, your loved ones, your youngest daughter, like to be that example of saying, hey, it's never too late in life to reinvent yourself. It's never too late to say, this is my dream. I'm going for it. And I think that's inspiring for everyone around you too, man.
And that's, yeah, you hit the nail right on the head as far as reinventing, because I feel like I've done that over the
Mm.
past few years. Is I had to really reflect on some things and think about the direction I was going in, and say to myself, hey, I'm not too old to do certain things.
Mm.
I've never been one to count myself out. I always felt like um, success was going to come to me somehow. I just didn't know how.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do to attain it.
Mm.
Like I said, I sought promotions, but even then I was like, man, I wasn't really too high on that, because I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to work longer
Mm.
hours, and yeah, I'll get paid a little bit more, but for me it just wasn't the ideal.
Right.
you know
Yeah. 100%.
and and why can't you live the ideal life?
Mm.
That's my thing. Why not? That's
Yeah.
what I tell people. Why not you?
Yes.
It's not just reserved for certain people.
Nope.
All of us can do it, and you don't have to sell yourself out. You don't have to
Mhm.
sell your soul or anything like that, because there's people out there that have done it that
Mm.
haven't sold their soul. So
Mhm.
the examples are already in place.
Yeah.
And yeah, not everyone is going to like you.
Mm.
I mean, but that's human nature,
Right.
unfortunately.
Right.
But you can still be a success. And so yeah, I've had to really, I've done that, and it wasn't like it was all you know, it wasn't like I sat back 4 or 5 years ago and said, okay, well, this is the script I'm going to follow.
Right.
But I was just led in that direction just by things that happened, and just through personal growth, and, just learning things about myself.
Yeah, this is beautiful, Mills. And what I'm hearing is the Les Brown says it's possible, right? Like that famous phrase of it's possible. If you just keep
Hmm.
repeating that over and over to yourself, it's possible to have a great family life, time and money freedom, impacting people, and really owning your gifts and sharing that. Might not be where you're at today. That's totally cool. Everyone's on their own journey. You're at the perfect place. Now that you have this desire, how do you cultivate that more? How do you have the discernment in the decisions that reinforce your discipline so that you can get to that dream destination? All the while enjoying the journey, and I think that's super important, Mills. I've loved this conversation. I want to talk a little bit more about how you work with like schools and organizations to speak. Can you tell us a little bit more about how people can get in contact with you for that and what that's like for them?
Sure. I have a website. It's
Yep,
very easy to remember. Just like I have my book, Success is a Process, Not an Event. Well, my website is successisaprocess.net.
beautiful.
Successisaprocess.net. Very easy to remember.
Hmm.
And so if you're wanting me to speak to your organization, or if you're interested in my book, you can contact me through my website. My website is very thorough. It has a contact me form. It has my phone number. It has my email address. Has a lot of information on there in the form of testimonials from previous clients. I
Awesome.
got 15 video testimonials,
Wow, great job.
people that I just simply asked, like, hey, do you mind just, giving me a quick testimonial of what you thought?
Right.
And, they willingly did it. I didn't, force them to do it or
Right.
anything like that. I didn't say, I'm going to beat you up or anything like that. They just volunteered to do it. And so I also have, some video from a few engagements, pictures, and that sort of thing. So, again, if you are interested, just reach out to me. Successisaprocess.net. I
Mm.
also have a book. I actually have two books. Uh,
Oh,
yeah. So
yes.
I have one that this version right here is basically targeted to. Well, I won't say it's to students because it can apply to anyone,
Okay.
but I like to offer this to schools.
Mm.
Um, and that's another thing I would like to tell students. I always tell them, I say, I'm not somebody that likes to write a whole lot,
Mm.
but I've written a couple of books
Hmm.
because I did it to support my goal of being a speaker, and I
Yeah,
wanted to get my thoughts on paper. So
that's right.
again, you just never know where you're going to end up at, and that's why it's always good to have skills because you may draw upon them one day.
Mm.
So yes, I do have this book right here.
Okay.
I also, if you're an educator, I have this book right here. Yes, it's the same title, but it's geared toward educators. Okay, inspiring a mindset to flourish as an educator. So I kind of changed some things and make it more classroom related and
Yeah,
social emotional learning
that's
related.
great.
And so yeah, this is for educators to be in the right frame of mind because hey, being a teacher is challenging.
Yep.
And so those are some of the materials I offer. Again, I would love to come speak. I really enjoy that. And so if you are interested, just fill out the contact form or email me. And, that way we can start a conversation as to speaking. I also do a lot of outreach myself on my own by calling places and, emailing just to see if there is a need for a speaker.
Yeah. Yeah. Mills,
Mhm.
I love it. I hear the determination, the discipline, the desire, the decisions that you've made to be able to fulfill on your vision. And I also hear that anyone who brings you in to speak is definitely going to be blessed to have you there and have a great experience and really big big impact with their audience, man. So I just
Okay.
appreciate who you are and how you deliver that.
And one thing I do want to mention, as far as my approach to speaking,
Yep.
um, I had a principal when I first started teaching. She used to always say a person's attention span is equal to their age.
Mm.
And so I really try to integrate that when I design a presentation. I
Yeah.
like to make my presentations interactive.
Okay.
I don't believe in just having an audience sit there and listen to me talk for 60 minutes because I know people will check out. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been as an educator, as a teacher, I've been to tons of presentations. And so I know how it is. Okay. You're preaching to the choir
Yep.
as far as, saying, oh, it can be boring. And so I like to make it interactive. I
Yeah.
like to go into the audience, ask questions. I'll use technology like maybe do Twitter polls,
Mm.
or even do online quizzes using programs like quizzes. That way people can play through their phones, and then I'll
Yeah,
give out prizes, at the end, just to see if they're really, how engaged they were,
that's
and
great.
just to make it fun. Also like to do some kinesthetic type activities. And so that's my brand of
Mm,
presentation. So I realize, you got to play your game. And so
yeah.
I'm playing I'm playing the game how I like to play it. And I think it's worked really well. People tend to really appreciate it. Kids, seem to like it a lot. And, the feedback I've gotten has really been good.
Yeah, great job, Mills. You're a powerhouse, man. Anyone who works with you is absolutely, just going to receive above and beyond. So I appreciate you being here, and everyone who's listening or watching, go to www.successisaprocess.net and connect with Mills there. Contact him and Mills. I've really appreciated this journey together through this interview, man, and I'm excited to support you even more, getting your message out and making a bigger impact in the world. So thanks so much for being here, brother.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We'll see you soon, okay?
All right. Thank you.